Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of First Look, the series where I take a look at a brand new frame that just came out without necessarily knowing every single thing about it. In update 18 we got a brand new frame, one that personally I've been looking forward to since she was announced, the Archer frame Ivara. Since she was announced at 10 Live, Ivara has been a frame that people have talked about with interest and quite a lot of excitement. So how does she stack up against the other frames now that she's in the game? Well, her base stats are pretty decent with 225 health and 300 shield at rank 30, an understandably low armor amount of just 65, because let's be honest, she's not really supposed to be there face tanking, but the highest non-prime energy amount of a massive 175 at rank 30, which is absolutely fantastic, and scales so well with the use of mods like Prime Flow. But no frame relies solely on their stats to power through missions, and Ivara is no exception, with a fantastic array of powers at her disposal. Her first is called Quiver, which gives our Ivara access to 4 specialist arrows, each with their own fantastic utility. Now the way to change arrows is by tapping the power button, and holding down that button will fire the selected arrow. Now the first choice you've got is the Cloak arrow, which produces a bubble on impact which will make anything inside the bubble invisible. This can be stuck to allies, or even companions like Kubros for extra utility. Now this has got a whole bunch of uses: reviving fallen teammates, cloaking friendly Tenno while running stealthier missions, protecting squishier Tenno in public lobbies. There's so many uses for this. Now the second one on this quiver is the dash wire arrow, firing an arrow with a cable behind it, creating a zipline on impact with another surface. Now, I have to admit, when I saw this I wondered, would anyone ever use this? However, since Ivara's come out, I've used it so many times, often for sitting up cloaked up high on like static defense missions like mobile defense or defense, even protecting extractors and excavation, with a sniper rifle or a bow picking off attacking units. It's another incredible asset to Ivara, and one that actually genuinely surprised me at how often I used it. Now it's important to remember that you can only have 4 ziplines active at any one time, much like Frost Bubble, so casting a 5th will remove the first one. Now the third arrow available from Quiver is the Noise arrow, which when fired will attract unalerted enemies to the point of impact, but it will not alert those enemies. Now, I'll be honest, this is probably the least useful of the arrows at the moment, since in missions like Defense and Survival, it literally does nothing, because once the enemies are alerted, it becomes completely useless and they don't go to the point of impact. But provided you can remain undetected the entire mission, it can be really useful, especially when combined with Ivara's 4th arrow, the Sleep arrow. As you can imagine, the Sleep arrow does exactly what it says on the tin. It will put enemies in a radius around the impact site of the arrow to sleep, opening them up to finishers. So as you can imagine, provided you spend the entire mission undetected, you can really utilise those Noise and Sleep arrows. Now all arrows in Quiver are affected by range, but also all of them except the dash wire are affected by duration. Ivara's second ability is Navigator, which allows you to take control of either your last fired or next fired projectile. Those of you that have played DE's previous game Dark Sector will be familiar with this as the ability called Aftertouch, which allowed you to control your glaive in that game, and it's pretty much the same in Warframe. You can take control of arrows, missiles, grenades, bolt firing weapons like the Boltor, thrown weapons like the Kunai, and thrown melee like stuff like the glaives, and guide them onto target. With left mouse button you can speed the projectile up, and right mouse button you can slow them down again, whilst being steered with the sort of WASD keys. Not only do you gain the ability to control the projectile, but the projectile also gains damage for the longer it's been in the air, gaining damage as it flies at the expense of increasing the drain of your energy. Now, a controlled projectile will drain energy very, very quickly though, even with a very efficient build, so that does need to be taken into account. Now, it's not a very complex ability, but it is definitely one that has a lot of uses, in terms of sitting cloaked behind cover, using your glaives or your arrows to just kill enemy after enemy after enemy. It is a very useful ability, one that honestly I was worried whether it would fit into Warframe, and honestly I still don't think in some of the survival missions some of the really fast-paced missions, it doesn't still really fit. But if you're using things like the Ogress, where you blow yourself up more often than not, sitting up on like a on the dash wire, controlling your Ogress missiles with the damage buff that it does, you can make that thing do an incredible amount of damage. So it's definitely one that is situational. It's not bad, but it is situational. Her third ability, Prowl, isn't a very complex one either. When it's activated, Ivara will cloak, reducing her movement speed, but allowing her to use stealth multipliers while melee, plus also she gets a headshot bonus to shots taken while cloaked. If the shots are taken with a silenced weapon, she will remain cloaked, however unsilenced ones will decloak her for a second. She will recloak after a couple of seconds delay though, so there's no need to recast it. Now, movement while cloaked does drain energy from her at a faster rate. However, if she is not moving, the ability drain is almost unnoticeable, but she can jump or roll to move quicker, but sprinting or bullet jumping will break the cloak. One of the best things about Prowl is the pickpocket ability that she gets. What this does is when she's close to an enemy, she will attempt to steal an item from their drop table from them. Now, this could be anything from a mod to energy to ammunition, and it's actually a fairly cool way of doing loot runs. It might not be as efficient as doing Hydroid or doing Necros, but it's still really cool and a bit of a decent it's a viable alternative, and it's something that's pretty imaginative. I love this power a lot. It's something I use the majority of the time when I'm doing stealth runs, or if I'm just protecting objectives in mobile defense or the excavations, when I'm just sitting up on my dash wire. I use this ability all the time. And the best thing is, even when you're moving on the dash wire, you can sprint, you can slide whilst in Prowl, and it will not be broken. So that is a really fantastic use of Prowl when you're up on the dash wire. Now, Ivara's fourth ability is the Artemis Bow. All I have to say is, holy crap, this thing is amazing. She will summon her bow, firing 7 arrows at a time in a vertical line when you simply left click, and if you click and hold to charge up the shot, it moves to being a horizontal line, and that can be seen on screen on a faint UI element. It can be hard to see, but it is there. So you will see where the arrows will fly when you release the shot. Now, there's not a huge amount of this ability, apart from it has 160 damage as standard, which can be boosted with the use of power strength mods as well as rifle mods. Now, from testing, much like Exalted Blade, it appears that the Artemis Bow comes with its own stats, which are affected by the rifle mods. Now, what I seem to have found out is that it seems to be, as far as I can tell, it seems to be mostly puncture, since I don't recall seeing any other physical damage procs other than that. It also seems to have a very low status chance, since it doesn't seem to proc very often, even with a status build. Heavy caliber has no effect on the accuracy of Artemis, so this can be used without any problem. Spit chamber also works on it. It seems to bring the arrow count per shot up to about 13 arrows, which is pretty damn good. Elemental mods also seem to not only affect the procs that you get from the Artemis Bow, but it also increases the faction specific damage, much like it does on any other weapon. So modding your bow for the correct elemental combo is just as important as ever. Now, much like standard bows, it's also affected by rate of fire mods, so selecting something with crazy low charge time like the Rat Casernos, that has no effect on the Artemis Bow. You will still need the attack speed mods. And finally, Thunderbolt also works, and while it might not be the most effective way of boosting the damage from the bow, it is very, very amusing. And as an option, if you're just messing about at lower levels, because it is a lot of fun. Now, for me, the Artemis Bow is one of the best fourth designed powers, the best designed fourth powers on any frame in the game. That mix of player skill to land the shots, to know when to fire single target, when to take down groups with the charge attack, it's so much fun. It's also not a true channeled ability, since it doesn't have any energy drain on it at all until you actually fire it, and even then that can be reduced with efficiency mods down to something like 4 energy per shot, and then you can get energy from Trinity, or you can use your energy pizzas. Not only this, but the damage is fantastic, and even against factions where bows aren't really the strongest, like things like the Infested where single target usually isn't very good, that full charge horizontal attack absolutely wipes out whole waves of infested. It's absolutely fantastic. Okay, so let's move on to starting to mod Ivara. Now, she comes with a dash polarity aura, and she also comes with a D and a dash as standard. However, we're going to add 3 former. I know this is done 4 because I messed up a little bit on the build. We're going to add 2 Vs and a D. Now, this first build is pretty much my balance build, trying to get a balance of all things, to not really focus on anything too much. So we've got corrosive projection, or we can put energy siphon, since energy siphon works with the Artemis bow. We've got power drift, one of the new drift mods in here, which is increasing power strength. You could also put one of the other ones for like power range or something to work with stretch, which I have on here, which is going to help the range of some of the arrows in her quiver ability. We've got prime continuity on here for duration. We've got prime flow on here, which is going to increase our power max to a massive 744. Transient fortitude, which is working together with power drift to bring up a decent amount of power strength for the Artemis bow. Streamline and fleeting for max efficiency. And for survivability, we've got redirection and vitality. Now, our second build, more focused on the duration of the abilities. So we've got prime continuity, and we've got a just over half rank narrow-minded, which is going to bring our duration up to a fairly decent amount. We've got fleeting and streamline once again for max efficiency. Intensify to keep that power strength up a little bit. We've got overextended for range, as well as cunning drift, which is going to help the range on her quiver ability. And we've only got vitality on this one, since this is more of a stealth focused build, more around her first ability and all the duration to do with that. So we had to drop one of the survivability mods for that. And our fourth build is more of a straight up Artemis bow build. Transient fortitude, intensify and power drift, all for power strength. Prime continuity for a bit of duration for her first abilities in case you need it. Prime flow for increasing the power max. Streamline fleeting for max efficiency. And once again, redirection and vitality, because she's going to definitely be... This is more of a straight up combat build, so having both redirection and vitality on there is very, very good. So do I think that Ivara's worth the time, effort and form to max? And more than that, is she lens worthy? And the answer to that is absolutely yes, she is. Look, I said earlier, I think she's one of the best design frames in a very long time, both visually and with her powers. She isn't the easiest frame ever to pick up, dropping from the spy vaults, but visually she reminds me a lot of the Geth from Mass Effect, which is absolutely no bad thing. And her powers, honestly, I don't think there's a bad one in the bunch. A couple of them are very specialised and best used in certain situations, like the Noise Dart and even Navigator are extremely situational, but extremely powerful when used in those situations. And then there's the Artemis bow. The new farming spot on Hyricon on Pluto is a high level infested excavation. The Artemis bow absolutely excels. It kills with no problems whatsoever. It slaughters entire groups at a time. It's absolutely fantastic. I put my Greater Zavaric lens on her, in fact before it became available for 40 plat, and I've got no regrets at all, since in 2,500 cryotic runs, I can get something like 15,000 focus XP, which is, I know it's a long way from the efficiency of putting it on Excal and threeing your way through Draco, or running a spy mission, or going to an exterminate and getting all the stealth kills at the end of a mission. Personally, I find farming cores and Tower 4 keys at the same time as getting a focus XP way more fun. But to be honest, each to their own. Ivara is one of those frames that is really focused towards the stealth aspect of her gameplay, and while she might not get through a mission as quickly and as stealthily as Ashe or Loki does it, she can really use those stealth abilities to actually benefit a team. Got a teammate down, surrounded by enemies? Fire a cloak dart at him, followed by a sleep dart to put them all to sleep, and then revive while cloaked using Prowl. Or just use Prowl to revive them safely in the first place. Sticking cloak arrows with high duration to your rather squishy teammates to stop them from dying constantly. That's always an option as well, although it does mean babysitting them through the entire mission a bit. But better than that, well, to be honest, better that than failing the mission because your teammate's constantly dying. But when all that crowd control fails, you can just whip out the Artemis bow and shred any enemy in front of you with ease, clearing up wave on wave of enemies. She's a truly versatile frame, and those that enjoy juggling around abilities and weapons that benefit those abilities will be able to find some seriously creative ways of making Ivara valuable to any team. Just a quick little thing from me, videos over the next few days, maybe even a week or so, might be a little bit hit or miss. One of my wisdom teeth is in the process of completely collapsing, and so talking is pretty difficult at the moment since it's actually making the pain worse. Now, I'm sure you can probably hear my voice isn't the strongest in this video in the first place. I am going to have to go into hospital to have it removed at some point in the near future, but we'll see when that actually happens. And I will try and continue getting videos out to you, but it might not be quite as regular as as regular as I would want it to be. I've also had questions about doing a focus video, and the answer is the same with anything else like this. I will wait until the system is a little bit more finalised before doing a video on it. Now, I'm not one for putting out something that I know is going to change within the next week, and from what I've heard, it's probably going to be some fairly major changes coming to it, including the patch that came out last night. So my video will be out of date almost at the time of publishing it. Expect a video on it in the next few weeks, but probably not sooner than that, to be honest. But anyway, back to Ivara. Ever since I saw her power list, I knew she was going to become my main frame, and I was absolutely right with that. I've had incredible fun with the stealth missions, using her for loot runs. It's a welcome change of pace over using Necros or Hydroid, or simply just skewering entire groups of enemies with the Artemis bow. She's incredible fun. She looks amazing and plays even better. Sorry Nix, but move over. There's a new contender for the top spot in my arsenal. As always guys, many thanks for watching. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, it helps me out a ton, and I shall see you in the next episode.